তাই চাঁদ বামে গদাধর নিকটে অদ্বৈত সিনী বাস ছত্রধর নিকটে অদ্বৈত সিনী বাস ছত্রধর বসে আছে গোরাচাঁদ রত্ন সিংহাসনে 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 আরতি করেন ব্রহ্মা আদি দেবগণে আরতি করেন আদি দেবগণে আরতি করেন ব্রহ্মা আদি দেবগণে আরতি করেন ব্রহ্মা আদি দেবগণে নর হরি আদি করি চামর ঢুলায় ও হরি আদি করি চামর ঢুলায় নর হরি আদি করি চামর ঢুলায় তো হরি আদি করি চামর ঢুলায় সঞ্জয় মুকুন্দ বাসু ঘোষাদি গায় সঞ্জয় মুকুন্দ বাসু ঘোষাদি গায় শঙ্খ বাজে ঘণ্টা বাজে বাজে করতাল 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 মধুরা মৃদঙ্গ বাজে পরম রসাল মধুরা মৃদঙ্গ বাজে পরম রসাল শঙ্খ বাজে ঘণ্টা বাজে মধুর 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 বাজে বাজে ঘণ্টা বাজে মধুর 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 বাজে শঙ্খ বাজে ঘণ্টা বাজে মধুর 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 বাজে বাজে ঘণ্টা বাজে মধুর 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 বাজে শঙ্খ বাজে ঘণ্টা বাজে মধুর 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 বাজে বাজে ঘণ্টা বাজে মধুর 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 বাজে নিতাই গৌরা হরি বল হরি বল হরি বল নিতাই গৌরা হরি বল নিতাই গৌরা হরি বল হরি বল হরি বল নিতাই গৌরা হরি বল বহু কোটি চন্দ্র জিনি বদন জাল বহু কোটি চন্দ্র জিনি বদন জাল কোটি চন্দ্র জিনি বদন চাল কোটি চন্দ্র জিনি বদন চাল গল দেশে বনমালা করে ঝলমাল গল দেশে বনমালা করে ঝলমাল শিব শুক নারদ প্রেমে গদ গদ 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 ভক্তি বিনোদ দেখে গৌরার সম্পদ ভক্তি বিনোদ দেখে গৌরার সম্পদ গৌরাঙ্গের আরতিক শোভা জগ জন মান লোভা রাঙ্গের আরতিক শোভা জগ জন মান লোভা গৌরাঙ্গের আরতিক শোভা জগ জন মান লোভা রাঙ্গের আরতিক শোভা জগ জন মান লোভা নিতাই গৌরা হরি বল হরি বল হরি বল নিতাই গৌরা হরি বল নিতাই গৌরা হরি বল হরি বল হরি বল নিতাই গৌরা হরি বল নিতাই গৌরা হরি বল হরি বল হরি বল নিতাই গৌরা হরি বল গৌরা হরি বল হরি বল হরি বল নিতাই গৌরা হরি নমঃ ওম বিষ্ণুপাদায় কৃষ্ণপৃষ্ঠায় ভূতলে শ্রীমতে ভক্তি বেদান্ত স্বামী নিতি নামিনে নমঃ ওম বিষ্ণুপাদায় কৃষ্ণপৃষ্ঠায় ভূতলে শ্রীমতে ভক্তি Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Charine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Ramo Ramo Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Ramo Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Ramo Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Ramo Hare Hare Jaya Radha Shama Sundar Radha Shama Sundar Radhe Radha Shama Sundar Radha Shama Sundar Radhe Jaya Radha Shama Sundar Radha Shama Sundar Radhe Radha Shama Sundar Radha Shama Sundar Radhe Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Shri Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvyakacharya Shtodra Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace श्री भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की जय. नितिनलाल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्यकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतश्री श्रीमद His Divine Grace श्री भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर गोस्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की जय. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि श्री गौर भक्तविंद की जय. श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय. श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय. मायापुर धाम की जय. जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय. गंगा माई की जय. यमुना माई की जय. भक्ति देवी की जय. तुलसी महारानी की जय. इस्कॉन फाउंडर आचार्य श्री प्रभुपाद की जय. श्री राधा श्याम सुंदर की जय. श्री गौर निताय की जय. श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा महारानी की जय. निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल. All glories to Assembled devotees. Krishna. All glories to Assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga.
Namaste Narashinhaya. Prahaladadayine. Hiranyakashi Purvakshaha. Shilakantana-kalaye. Ito Narsimha parato Narsimha. Toya toya mitato Narsimha. Bahi Narsimha Hrudaye Narsimha. Bahi Narsimha Hrudaye Narsimha. Bahi Narsimha Hrudaye Narsimha. Narashimhamadim Sharanam Prapadin. Tava kara kamala vare nakam arpota stringa. Dalita hiranyakashipu tanu bringa. Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Tavakara Kamala Vare Nakam Shringa. Tavakara kamala varena kamarputa shringa. Dalita hiranyakashipu tanu bringa. Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Tavakara kamala varena Shringa. Dalita hiranyakashipu Shavadita Narahari केशवदीता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे केशवदीता नरहरि रूपा जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल विघ्न विनाशक नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय भक्त शिरोमणि प्रहलाद महाराज की जय
going to happen. They talked about it, but they didn't do it. You know, one of those, they talked about it, but they didn't do it. Yes, I am going to need the power cord. Sure, but let's just get this set up. No. I'm going to sing Jai Radhamana. Just set it up. You can plug this in too. There's that end. Oh, okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Jasoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Jasoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Thank you. Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Jasoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Jasoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Ravanachari Ravanachari Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parividakacharya Astatara Satsasi Srimad His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananda Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Shri Radha Shama Sundara Ki Samveda Bhaktavrinda Ki Dhantai Gaur Primanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. This morning, we successfully covered the Mangala Charana section of Tattva-Sandarbha. Congratulate yourselves, we finished. And now we're going to begin the next section, which has a couple of different parts. If you have your handout, we'll call it the handout, on pages 2 and 3, it gives an overview of how we're going to be breaking down the sections and subsections of Tattva-Sandarbha. So we finished section 1. Now we're going to begin section 2, which reads, establishing Srimad Bhagavatam as the supremely authoritative source of knowledge, and it has some subsections, as you see. So we're going to be discussing subsection A, the Vedic literatures are the best evidence. Now, just a second here. During the break after the morning session, one of the interactions with someone attending the morning session shared, I'm a new person and this seems like not exactly meant for new persons. So, just a little sharing with you. A few devotees over the period of time, a few years, said, not in a complaining way, but kind of like an encouraging way, we understand, or I understand, that many times with public speaking, it's new people. So you have to speak something that's relatable to new people. So it's introductory and introductory and introductory and introductory. And introductory is nice. But every now and then, can you do something that's beyond introductory? And we can go a little more deeply into a subject matter, please. Every now and then. So I heard that a few times and it registered. And so I thought, okay, well, once a year, I'll do that. And I'll pick topics that are Krishna Consciousness 201, not 101. And if somebody's new, just like if there's somebody new in the audience and you haven't finished 101 yet, and we're already at 201, it's not that this isn't meant for you. I shared with this person, just like your children. Do you sometimes share something with your children that they don't quite understand, but you share it with them anyway? And she smiled and said, yeah, I understand. Now I understand what you're saying. So if you don't understand, then it's okay. It's exactly what Prabhupada said to us when reading Nectar Devotion. He was getting all these letters. What does this mean and that mean? So he just wrote a very simple explanation. If at first you don't understand, read it again. And then, if after reading again you don't understand, then read it again. And then, if you still don't understand, continue reading again and again, and eventually you understand. So now, based on that question this morning, I was thinking, I should have said this right at the very beginning, because I certainly did that with Brahma Samhita, a book that I've always wanted to go more deeply in, but it was forbidding. In part, the language of Bhaktisiddhanta is, you need a dictionary every third word. And even when you have a dictionary, it's not the normal way that people use words, so it's puzzling. But after reading it again and reading it again and reading it again, and kind of like osmosis, it kindly went in. And then I tried, as we're going to see it again, the nature of a Sandarbha, it's complex subject matter, easily understandable, which is a contradiction. Because complex subject matter is not easily understandable. But to make it easily understandable really requires that you deeply understand it, because otherwise it remains complex without it. Anyway, so this is Krishna Consciousness 201, and if you don't understand it, that's okay. Just continue to hear. And one of the things, if you've read Srila Prabhupada's books reasonably, what to speak of, you read them regularly, you'll notice the following. Srila Prabhupada has presented these understandings to us already. He just pablamized them. What's pablum? Baby food. You take apples and you make it into puree, and it becomes baby pablum. And because babies don't have strong power of digestion, they can take one spoonful at a time and they can digest it, and it's digestible. Srila Prabhupada did that. He made baby food out of very high philosophy. And Jiva Goswami is similarly taking this subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam and making it his audience is not 101 folks. His audience isn't even exactly us. His audience is the scholars of his time. And the scholars of his time, well, put it this way, there are not scholars today like the scholars of his time. The scholars today are like children compared to the scholars of before. What to speak of us? We're not scholars of today. But that was his audience. And we'll see in just a few minutes, he wanted to present in a comprehensive and systematic way the doctrine or the teachings, the treatise of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teach? What's the message? In a to Z, completely comprehensive way. Not little pieces here, little pieces there. The whole thing. That's a lot. The whole thing is a lot. And it's in the Bhagavatam, so it's the messages of the Bhagavatam according to subject matter. Okay, so now we're take notes. Many of you have your notebooks open, and just modern educators have said, have demonstrated, researched, it helps if you want to retain something, you write it down while you're sitting in class. If you write it down, because one of the things that you have to formulate the language that captures the essence. And you become practiced at that, and your listening tunes into the essence, because you have to do that, because you have to write it down. And then another thing is you share with somebody else that also strengthens your retention. So even if there's something new, write it down, discuss it with others, and then, the final is you apply it in your life. Because although this is philosophy, it's relevant philosophy. It's, how to, specific for the section that we're going to be discussing, to become thoroughly convinced that the practices that we're doing, specifically chanting and reading Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, is the best approach to realize the self and to realize the Supreme and our relation with Him. It's the best. How do we know that? Listen carefully, you know how we know that, because Jiva Goswami lays it out. Okay, so now you see on the screen, this is interesting. I'm over here, the screen's over there, so you keep looking over there, although I'm over here. Anyway, we heard towards the end of the Mangalacharana prayers these two words, paryayam, systematic arrangement. Jiva Goswami used this word in relation to the manuscript that he received from Gopal Bhatta Goswami about ideas from the Bhagavatam that he had written since childhood about others' views about transcendence, the Bhagavatam's refutation of those other views of transcendence with the references from the Bhagavatam. So he took that in its rough form and systematically organized it. He said he did that. So it's systematic. And in Gopi Pranadana's translation, he uses this word, I commit myself to this encyclopedic presentation. That's Gopi's words. I don't know what the Sanskrit word is connected with encyclopedic. I looked for it, I couldn't find it. But when we use this word encyclopedic, what does it mean? That's the comprehensive thing. Encyclopedia is like Google. It knows everything about everything, or has something to say about everything, whether it's right or wrong. Like a New Yorker, they have something to say about everything. And some of them think they're authorities in anything. Just ask them. So, encyclopedic, comprehensive and systematic. So now, whoops, our Prabhu with the screen just went away. Well, I'll tell you what it says until they come up with it. This word Sandarbha, this is the Bhagavad Sandarbha. This is the 6 Sandarbhas. Sandarbha, one of the meanings of Sandarbha is weaving, like cloth. Otam and protam, the words of Sanskrit, the warp and the weave. You take this thread and that thread and put them together, you get a cloth, right? So take this verse and that verse and you put them together and you get a comprehensive and systematic exposition on Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy. That's what Sandarbha is. And what's the Sandarbha about? It's about Bhagavat, about Krishna, the Supreme Person, who is unlimited and inconceivable potencies. Remember those two things? Because it's going to come up again. The absolute truth as a person, Bhagavan conception means person, and person means potencies. And Bhagavan's potencies are unlimited and inconceivable. So part of this comprehensiveness of the Sandarbhas is we're going to hear a lot, particularly in Paramatma Sandarbha, or if one who studies it, a lot about the energies that make up creation. Material nature, time, fascinating. One of my favorite fascinating topics is time. Very fascinating description in Paramatma Sandarbha about time. If you have time, you can read about time. Pun intended. Okay, so what to speak of a good teacher that knows Paramatma Sandarbha. So the intention of Jiva Goswami is to present a core treatise of the teachings of the Sampradaya. He's a follower of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's his worshipable master and Lord. Jiva Rupa Goswami is his spiritual master, who he has taken complete shelter of. So he, receiving from Rupa the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he wants to present this comprehensive and systematic core teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And at the same time, it's a thematic study of the Bhagavatam. Thematic in the sense that it's topic by topic, as opposed to canto by canto. That's not necessarily organized by topics. There's canto headings, but the very nature of Srimad Bhagavatam is it's non-linear. It's not, over here is this bucket, and over here is that bucket, and over there's 10 topics, and everything in this bucket is about this topic. Everything in that bucket. It's not like that. Not organized like that. Jiva Goswami is taking those selected verses with the assistance of Gopal Bhatta Goswami and Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, and taking the appropriate topics and expanding on them. One of the very last books, this is related, but it's not essential. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he wrote 100 books. They weren't as long and voluminous, but he wrote a lot of books. And one of the final books he wrote was similar to this, but it was just verses without explaining them. The title was Bhagavat Arka Marichimala. So a string of verses that give the teachings of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and it's topic by topic, and it's a lot of topics. And then there's subtopics under those topics, and there's verses that illumine those subtopics. And at the end of the book, he reveals something. He said Srup Damodar came before him and asked him to write the book, and told him how to write the book. Srup Damodar is one of the two most intimate associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he said he gave him a very special explanation of the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, which Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, I simply have presented what Srup Damodar has said. So, the Bhagavatam covers everything. So, a thematic study of the Bhagavatam, these two things, and the core treatise of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So now, the next slide that you can't see is covering again the topic of what does Sandarbha mean. Because this is a refresh. Because after all, it was 7 hours ago that we discussed this. And this is Kali Yuga, and our memories are very short. So one of the meanings of Sandarbha, just from the previous slide, is it means weaving or stringing together. Like this Bhagavad Arkamrijimala. Stringing together verses that then express there we go. They express the Bhagavatam's message. And then we also heard this morning, very similar, almost copy of the text we saw this morning, where Jiva Goswami says there's 5 parts to a Sandarbha. It elucidates a deep subject matter. It focuses directly on essentials, meaning details may not be, all details are not addressed, but essentials are the focus. Excellently composed, conveys various complex ideas, and is readily understandable. So that's what a Sandarbha is. Now, so this is the Bhagavad Sandarbha. And in Jiva Goswami's just step back from the whole exercise of writing the Sandarbhas, all 6 of them, he had an objective. And Sri Radhika picked up on one of them, this faithfulness to one's school of philosophy. And if you remember from this morning, it's not just etiquette to do so, it's a spiritual principle to do so. So Jiva Goswami wants to do what anyone from any sampradaya wants to do. They want to demonstrate that their teaching is the highest. They're obliged, and they want to demonstrate. And so Jiva Goswami had a very specific strategy. How to do that? And it's very simple and very straightforward. And the first part of the strategy is to show that Srimad Bhagavatam is the highest pramana. We're going to hear more on that term just now. What does pramana mean? It is a valid source of knowledge. Pramana, or means of knowing something. He wants to know Krishna or glorify Krishna, because that's what he said at the invocation mantra. But before glorifying Krishna, what's the best way of knowing the subject, Krishna? So Srimad Bhagavatam is that best source. That's what we're spending time together now, this holiday weekend. The Pramana Kanda section. So then the next takes, the other 5 cantos, other 5 Sandarbhas, and that is Srimad Bhagavatam is teaching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy. They're equal. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy is Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is teaching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy. So what's the third one? It's deductive logic. It's very logical. Srimad Bhagavatam is the highest pramana. Srimad Bhagavatam is teaching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy. Therefore, what? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy is the highest. Is it logical? That's his strategy. Srimad Bhagavatam is the highest. Srimad Bhagavatam is teaching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy is the highest. That's his strategy. And in 26 verses, actually, 9 through 26, but the Mangalacharna is essential in order to receive the other one. So in 26 verses, he's establishing this first item. And the rest is huge. That's the task of systematically and comprehensively, A to Z, nuts through bolts, that the Srimad Bhagavatam teaches Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy. Yeah, it's very comprehensive. Covers a lot of ground. A lot of tattvas, a lot of truths about Krishna. And then the third one is then automatically understood. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy is the highest. Okay, so that's our project, Jiva Goswami's project, and we're taking the first one of those. And we're entering into now Tattva-Sandarbha Pramana Kanda. Kanda means section. The section that deals with Pramana. Again, just so that you get used to hearing the term. What does Pramana mean? It means the means of knowing something, or the source of valid knowledge. And if you like, fancy words, epistemology. Look that up in your dictionary, epistemology. And that's what it'll say, the means of knowing something. So, as we showed in the outline, and pages 2 and 3, there's sections that are parts of this Tattva-Sandarbha. And section 2 it runs from 9 through 18, and it's establishing that Srimad Bhagavatam is the supremely authoritative source of knowledge. And there are many steps to that, or subsections. And so we'll start with subsection A. The Vedic literatures are the best evidence. And Prabhupada was not shy to speak about this. In fact, as we move along here, 1969, in Conway Hall in London, at the end of Rath Yatra in London, the first Rath Yatra, they had the parade in Trafalgar Square. They had a big, huge festival in a big hall, and Prabhupada spoke about this topic. 1969, who knows what was in the audience? What they had smoked or eaten or drunk or whatever. And he is describing this teaching. So you people are, you're nice Vaishnavas. You're very sober folks. So listen very carefully to this nice description. Text 9 refers to text 8. So 4 topics. Now, if you have a copy of this nice, Gopi Pranadhana's finely published version, you'll see, if you compare what's in his book to what's on the screen, some words are different. And the reason some words are different isn't because the typist didn't know what he was doing, meaning me, but it's because prior to its being published, there were versions that were digitally available, and I referred to some of them. And some of them I kept the exact wording of what's in the book, so don't be surprised if, hey, what's going on? It's not the exact same wording. Don't worry about it. The message is there. Okay, so from the previous verse, text 8, the last of the Mangalacharna verses, Jiva Goswami fulfills the mandate of what a Mangalacharna is supposed to do. What's that? He covers these 4 topics. What's the subject? The connection between the words and the book itself. Service to Krishna as the means, and pure love for Krishna, that's the goal or purpose to be fulfilled by the reader of the book. So then the verse reads, this is still just a translation of the verse. Before we can elucidate these topics, especially, talk about Krishna, because he's the topic, he's the subject of the book, we must first settle the question of pramana, the reliable means of ascertaining facts about Krishna. Human beings are bound to have 4 defects. This is what Prabhupada spoke about in 1969 at the end of a Rath Yatra. What's that? The defects of the conditioned soul. Subject to delusion, make mistakes, tend to cheat, and have imperfect senses. Thus, their direct perception, inference, and so forth, we'll hear more about direct perception, inference, and so forth as we go along. These are pramanas. Direct perception, inference, and so forth. The so forth is Shabda Pramana, or that valid source of knowledge from a good source. So these are defective because the 4 defects of the conditioned soul, and especially when we're looking what's beyond material reality into spiritual reality, that's where Krishna resides, they cannot enter there. So that's text 9. Conditioned souls have defects, 4 in number. The common means of trying to gain knowledge by direct sense perception and by reason are fallible because of those 4 defects. So they can't enter into knowledge about Krishna. They're not valid sources of knowledge of facts about Krishna. They're not good pramanas. That's the verse. That's like a little summary of the verse. So now he goes into some detail. Those of you that have a book, you can read along, and if you don't have a book, you can just listen. It's just as well to listen. I'm going to read the first paragraph because Gopi has explained this very nicely after 11 years of preparing himself. So this is the first paragraph of commentary to text 9. After invoking auspiciousness in the Mangalacharana, the author, Jiva Goswami, is next expected to justify his work by stating how it fulfills the 4 prerequisites. If you remember from this morning, Anubandha Chatushtaya, those 4, the subject or Vishaya, and then the others. Sambandha Abhideya Prayojana, but not in our conventional way of thinking of those terms. The author should first demonstrate, so he's declared he's going to do these things. Now, the author should first demonstrate that his book has a specific, well-defined topic. He stated what it is, the Vishaya, that's Sri Krishna. And Sri Krishna in his Swayam Bhagavan form, his original Swayam Rupa form, that's the subject. Then, to convince the reader that his book will deal with the subject adequately, he should show the connection, sambandha, between the topic that needs to be described, vacha, and the words he proposes will do this, vachaka, vacha-vachaka sambandha. Remember that from this morning. You'll see it again in just a moment. He should also indicate that the practical method or abhideya that he'll provide to enable the reader to realize the subject. Now, this is very important because it's not just philosophy that is philosophy for philosophy's sake. Here's the Anubandha Chatushtaya, and you don't have to read it because we already discussed it. We just read it from the purport also. In Greek philosophy, the very word philosophy means love of knowledge. Socrates was a philosopher, a lover of knowledge. And lovers of knowledge don't necessarily have an objective other than love of knowledge. One such philosopher Prabhupada had interaction with when he was in Germany in 1972, and his name was Professor Durkheim. And Professor Durkheim, shows his name here, every morning, or a number of mornings, he went on morning walks with Prabhupada, and one morning Professor Durkheim was praising philosophia, knowledge for knowledge's sake. And Prabhupada was disagreeing. No, not knowledge for knowledge's sake. There must be a practical purpose for that knowledge. You apply the knowledge, not just knowledge for knowledge's sake. And back and forth, and Prabhupada finally lost patience with the man and let him have it. And his explanation was that the application in Vedic system is self-realization. To know who you are. And to know who you are requires also knowing who you're not. Relieving yourself from misconceptions, and so that you can live a life in relation to the supreme truth. Truth of the self is for that purpose. So philosophy has a purpose. Professor Durkheim liked the explanation. He didn't argue after that. So the point I'm making here is that in the Vedic system, it's called darshan, like the 6 darshans. There's a purpose behind them because it's Vedic, knowing the self. And then there's a means by which you can know yourself, and there's things that you will experience when you know yourself. It's not just knowledge for knowledge's sake. So there must be a means of realization, and there must be a description of what that realization is. So you know when you're there, and you'll understand, you'll be encouraged to go there. Like a travel advertisement. Go to such and such place, because here's what it's like there. So these are requirements in the Mangalacharna, and then he's making some promises which then need to be fulfilled. So now, what's Jiva Goswami doing in this verse? He wants to establish an infallible means of acquiring knowledge about transcendence. And the first thing he said, Jiva Goswami, is the same thing that Prabhupada said at Conway Hall in 1972. And the transcription of that, by the way, is the introduction to Sri Ishopanishad. Those of you that have read Sri Ishopanishad will know that's true. So there are these 4 defects in human society. Prabhupada begins in 1969. And he's speaking to a public audience speaking about knowledge. In the Veda, the word Veda has various meanings, but in general it means knowledge. And there's ways of acquiring knowledge. And you can't acquire knowledge, real knowledge, by defective means. And then he outlines these 4. He doesn't use the Sanskrit terms, but he gives examples. He uses Gandhi as, makes a mistake. He was warned. There's a threat for your life at this public gathering. Please don't go. And he went. And sure enough, he made a mistake. He lost his life. It was a pretty big mistake. So BHRAMA is the first of the 4 defects. That means makes mistakes. Jiva Goswami says there's 2 kinds. One is mistaking the body to be the self. That's a big mistake. And then there's another, is when we think that we perceive something that is a fact that is not a fact, like a mirage or a hallucination or a hologram. I was just, in this month of October, I was in Wada, Govardhan Eco Village. Devikanandan, have you ever been there? You went there once. It's very hot, very perspirational. 95 degrees and 90% humidity. And no air conditioning. Having meetings. It was very interesting. So one of the things that during those meetings was a devotee that's working with the Mayapur Temple of Vedic Planetarium, and one of his areas of responsibility is exhibits to go inside. There's an exhibit hall or area in the Nrsimha Temple area. So one of the things that he was showing us images of was holograms, and technology is really advanced with holograms, and he showed a little video clip of Prime Minister Modi. He's Prime Minister, right? Part of what he did to get elected was he went to various places via hologram. What? There was, they have, the technology is now so advanced. There's a stage with big audience, his admirers, potential voters, and a little table and a chair, and the hologram comes walking in, offers a bit, with folded palms, sits down in the chair, and speaks, and everybody applauds when he speaks, and then he stands up and walks off the stage, and that way he was in his hologram form. In 50 places at the same time, all across India. I didn't know that. I learned about it in Govardhan Eco Village in October. So a hologram is not the person, but people voted for the person because they liked what the hologram had to say. So, anyway, that's anecdotal. That's an example of BHRAMA. You mistake something to be real when it isn't real, and vote for it. Anyway, or a mirage. It appears to be something, but it's not what it appears to be. BHR. So accepting the body as the self, or accepting something to be real when it isn't what it appears to be. That's mistakes. The example that Prabhupada gives is in Mahatma Gandhi getting assassinated. Then the next one is pramada. Pramada. Pramada literally means very mad. Mada and pramada. But literally, it means inattention, just like it's one of the offenses in the 10 offenses. It's also it's an offense to be inattentive when chanting the holy name. The term that's used is pramada. So this error or defect of the conditioned soul is when you're doing something, the mind is elsewhere. So the object is there, but you don't perceive it because your mind is elsewhere. Like you're looking for your car keys. You look and you look and you look and you can't find your car keys. You go back and you look again and you look and you can't find. Somebody comes along and says, there they are right there. Oh, I didn't see them. That's pramada. Where the mind is not connecting with the object of perception, like inattentive while chanting. So it's inattentiveness. So the correction is attentiveness. But conditioned souls have this tendency, defect, tendency, pramada. Then the next one is, not very nice one, it's vipralipsa, which is cheating propensity. Even you see something, you report it differently. Cheating, lying. He goes on, Jiva Goswami in his commentary says, when we're wishing to attain material happiness and we are not attaining material happiness somehow, we cheat to try to improve our chances to get enjoyment from material happiness. We're cheating ourselves. Vipralipsa. And imperfect senses. The Sanskrit term is karana patava. The classic is you look at the sun in the sky and it looks like a small disk, but it's many millions of times bigger than the Earth planet. So imperfect senses. And the conclusion of this 4, I put in bold letters at the bottom, these 4 defects, it's the premise of, or the cornerstone of entire Vedic epistemology, certainly a Vaishnava epistemology, but Vedic. All of the Vedas say you can't know about even material things properly, what to speak of transcendence, because of the defects of these 4 defects of the conditioned soul. I'm pausing, so let it sink in. Because from this, the next is, it's like Prabhupada gives this example like a lawyer builds his case. Jiva Goswami is doing that. He's taking scriptural reference and he's building his case. And the case is, where the train is going, is the Vedas are the proper source. Shabda Praman is the best. And then amongst Shabda Praman, Aparusheya Shabda, the non-human kind of Shabda, because there's another kind, there's human kind of Shabda. We'll go there in a moment. So the conclusion, because of these 4 defects, getting reliable knowledge, even about material objects, is not going to take place. What to speak of transcendental subjects? It's impossible. And so we need some other source. We're ready to go to what's that other source? Again, look at the headline. Jiva Goswami wants infallible means of acquiring knowledge. That's pramana. So now here's a dictionary definition of pramana. Pramana. So prama means valid knowledge. And pramana means a way of acquiring that valid knowledge. So synonyms, your thesaurus might say proof or evidence or authority. Pramana. Now I'm going to go to the bottom here, and the Vaishnava epistemology, or study of this science of how do you know things, it says that although there's different schools that have different ideas, Jiva Goswami follows Madhvacharya in accepting 3 as acceptable means of acquiring knowledge: sense perception, reason and logic and Shabda Praman, or revealed knowledge. Now we use them. Just in discussing the Damodar Leela, Mother Jasoda used them. She used reason and logic in her service to Krishna. So we don't say don't use them, but what we do say, and what Jiva Goswami explains, is we use them to the extent that they're in agreement with Shabda Pramana. And if they disagree with Shabda Pramana, we accept the Shabda Pramana instead of the other two. It's the Supreme Court. And it overrules the lower court. Two examples that Prabhupada liked to give regularly: cow dung and conch shell. You know the examples, those that have read Prabhupada's books. Cow dung is considered pure, but stool of an animal is considered impure. If you touch the stool of an animal, then you must bathe because you become impure. But you touch the stool of a cow, in fact, you can purify a place by applying cow dung because it's pure. Well, that's a contradiction. But because the Vedas state it, it's accepted. And sure enough, by, hooray for the scientists, by studying the properties of cow dung, it has antiseptic properties. It's pure, sure enough. So what we should not do is say, if science says it's true, then we accept the Vedas because science says it's true. It's the other way around. Maybe eventually science is going to get it together and correctly understand things that the Vedas knew all along from millions of years ago, without too many examples. Another is bone is impure, but a conch shell we use on the altar. But it's a bone. But the conch shell is pure. And sure enough, it's pure by scientific analysis. It doesn't have the diseases and germs, etc., that bones have. Similarly, anything that, because it comes from the Vedas, we accept it, and we apply reason and logic all the time, and we discount it or reduce its merit or just trash it if it is in conflict with Shabda Praman. Shabda Praman is the ultimate Praman. That's what Jiva Goswami explains. Now, I'm going to add something that's in the commentary here, because it's presented in Sarva-Samvadini commentary by Jiva Goswami. This in the back of this book. If you have one, you can read it. He goes through two other options. There are other schools of thought in the world besides Vaishnava school of thought. One of them, and it's Vedic, is Nyaya. What does Nyaya mean? It's logic, the school of logic. It's one of the 6 darshans, and it has these systems that it follows. So anyway, here's what Nyaya says. Nyaya darshan says that pramana is an instrumental cause of true knowledge, or prama karana. And true knowledge is perception that agrees with facts. Sounds logical, because it's nyaya. Perception that agrees with facts. Of course, how are you going to determine what facts are? You're using reason and logic to analyze the perception. There's faultiness in that. Then, Jiva Goswami, because it was during his time, Buddhism hadn't totally faded out at that time. Here's what Buddhists say. No, there's no such things as things at all. There's no real things at all. In fact, there's no reality extending through time and space other than the raw phenomena of each separate moment. That's all that exists. And in the next moment, it's another raw phenomena, next moment. So be in the moment. It's one of their slogans. And what is truth? Truth is the capacity to inspire purposeful activity consistently. And that stage is enlightenment. And one who is enlightened becomes a Buddha. So you too can become Buddha. That's a goal. Fascinating. So there are different schools where there's different pramanas. So we'll go back now to what Jiva Goswami accepts following the line of Madhvacharya. There are these three, and let us discuss these three. What are the three? Direct perception, that's number one. And then reason and logic, or inference, anuman, and then shabda. So if you don't like philosophy, you can just tune out right now. And just, because where we're going is, the one that we're going to accept is shabda. This is just why we don't accept the other ones. But hey, it's Jiva Goswami's teaching, so we're going through it. Here we go. This is now taken from, not from this book, but from the earlier editions that you can get online at ISKCON Desire Tree. Directly perceiving something with our senses can be a means to either valid or invalid knowledge. But only that sense perception which leads to valid knowledge should be considered pramana. Sense perception is the principal means of acquiring knowledge in this material world. Both theistic and atheistic philosophers accept pratyaksha, that means direct sense perception, pratyaksha pramana, as one of the means of valid knowledge. Madhvacharya does too, and Jiva Goswami does too, provided it is in agreement with Shabda. Krishna says these things in Bhagavad Gita too. Direct perception is of two types, external and internal. And external perception occurs when we acquire knowledge through the senses, and an internal perception, we acquire knowledge directly through the mind, as when we perceive emotions such as pain, pleasure, love, and hate. In the Bhagavad Gita, 15.7, Lord Krishna lists the mind as the sixth sense. So it's the sense perception also. So now here's some more information about pratyaksha. Its scope of pratyaksha is limited to the present moment of time. It can't extend to past or future. Direct sense perception. And it's limited only to material things. Pratyaksha. And so Jiva Goswami says in Sarvasamvadani, there's an exception to this. What's that? If you look at the very bottom, you'll see this Vaidusha Pratyaksha. Those of you that know a little Sanskrit, vid means to know. V-I-D. Vid means to know. So Vaidusha means belonging to someone who knows, or to a wise or learned person, like rishis. Like Narada Rishi, Narada Muni. If Narada Muni says something, it's a fact. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. Because he's a rishi. He doesn't have to, he sees because he has that capacity. In fact, the Vedic mantras that are used in yagyas, many of them were received in that way. They were manifested by rishis. They just turned their receiver on and they received mantras and then uttered them. There's a broadcaster, Narayana, and there's a receiver, the rishi, and then there's an amplifier, their voice, and they've vibrated. So if you don't have your receiver on, you can't receive, television signals and radio signals and phone signals and all kinds of other signals. But if you have your receiver on, you can receive them. They're just like zooming through the room all the time. So there's, in Shabda, in Vedic sound vibration, the rishis had the receivers. They were very qualified. They knew what frequency and etc. So he discusses this point. I'm not going to read the whole thing. There are verses in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says the same thing. In the 9th chapter, verse number 2, Krishna says, knowledge leads to direct realization of transcendence by experience. Here's this word pratyaksha. Transcendental knowledge, knowledge of chapter 9, leads to direct perception of the self. Or, in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, verse 21, Krishna assures Arjuna that the state of transcendental samadhi, a devotee acquires knowledge through purified intelligence and transcendental senses. This is this Vaidusha Pratyaksha. Have I lost anybody? Somebody's nodding. A purified soul, like Narada Muni, or what to speak of, Vyasadeva, they can receive, Lord Brahma, they can receive transcendental knowledge within the heart. And it's a valid source of knowledge. They're directly perceiving by that higher state of consciousness. That's a kind of pratyaksha that is acceptable, even for transcendence or for temporal things. It's an exception to the rule. The rule is pratyaksha, or direct sense perception, cannot give you valid knowledge. There's an exception. A perfected being can have direct perception of things that we can't have. That's the message. Okay. Then number 2 of 3 is Anuman. And what is Anuman? It's logical inference. Here's what he writes. It's based on generalized experience. Literally, anu means to follow. Anumana means knowing after. So there's some repeated experience, repeated experience, repeated experience, repeated experience, repeated experience, like objects fall. Gravity is a real force, whatever someone evaluates why objects fall. Someone jumps out the window, they're going to crash on the ground. It's a predictable event. Something that's probable, like the classic in Western logic is a three-part. It's called the syllogism. All men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Therefore, Socrates is immortal. Logic. You're squinching your face. We don't know whether Socrates is mortal or not mortal, but most likely he's mortal. It's probable. Because all men are mortal, Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal. That's, the Greek anoman, logical inference. It gets a little more intricate, and I'm not going to spend much time on it because we're ruling it out anyways. But the Vedic system has 5 parts rather than those 3 parts. And it's from Nyaya. It's one of the 6 darshans. So if you don't like philosophy, just pretend that, you're just sing a Hare Krishna melody in your mind or something like that and tune out. And otherwise, for the rest of you, we'll just go forward and discuss these points. Here's the 5 items. They're listed. And there's a proposition. So here's the classic from Nyaya. There is fire on the mountain. That's the proposition. And then, at the end, it's the conclusion. It's the same. But, that's the proposition. It seems to me that there's fire on the mountain. And then there has to be a reason. Well, there's smoke. And, then there's the general rule, where there's smoke, there's fire. And then you're supposed to also give a practical example of that, like in the kitchen. This is Nyaya, so it's like, it's an airtight example. And there, you can see, because it involves sense perception, over there, there's smoke over the mountain. Therefore, there's fire on the mountain. Now, there could be some other causes. It's fallible. Supposing a number of things. Supposing there used to be a fire on the other side of the mountain, a big rainstorm came, and it put out the fire. And when you put out a fire, there's a bunch of smoke, and the wind blew it onto this side of the mountain, and now you see smoke on this side of the mountain. There's no fire. There was one on the other side. So there could be another explanation than this explanation. So reason and logic is fallible. But there's steps to it. And there's even, these nice Sanskrit terms, which I'm not going to go into because we're going to reject it anyways. And it's like technical, and I get the sense we don't really want to get into technical stuff in this group. So, but here they are. There's a claim, something that is being stated. Like, an example of that in the Vedanta Sutra is Atato Brahma Jigyasa. There's a statement. Now is the time to inquire about the absolute truth. It's just a statement. That's an example. Pratigya. And then in relation, there's this next term called hetu. Anyway, there's something that's observed. I see some smoke. And then there's this next one called vyapti. Vyapti appears up here also, vyapti. That's invariable concomitance. Where there's smoke, there's fire. If you saw some smoke pouring through the wall. This happened once in one temple I was staying. The smoke started coming through the wall. And I could understand there's an electric fire on the other side of the wall. I didn't see the electric fire. But where there's smoke, there's fire. I called Jitendriya right away. There's a fire in the wall. Better do something. So that's this vyapti. Then you give an example, like in the kitchen. Then there's something observable. These are just rules of nyaya. And then, the conclusion. Yes, there's fire on the mountain, like that. So, by the way, although this is a little complicated, you'll find it in Chaitanya Charitamrita, not just in the Sandarbhas. And there's the reference. There's the reference. In Adi Lila chapter 7, we discussed in the morning session, that's where there's this talks with Prakashananda Saraswati. And everything you see on the screen about logic and reason, because that system was used also by Shankaracharya, and he presented his conclusions using this system, because it's a Vedic system. Each of these terms, the very same terms you just heard and see up on the screen here, they're in that section. So if you want to go back and study it some more, write it down, look it up. And Prabhupada has already given us this stuff. Now, this next slide we're going to go through very quickly, and if you want to go through it in more detail than quickly, it's in the handout, page 4 through 15. Details that'll satisfy anybody that likes details. It's all there. There are 7 additional, Jiva Goswami says there's 7 potential pramanas out there in the universe of potential means of knowing something. And we're going to very quickly go through them. Number 4 is Arsha. Arsha means sages said it. A classic is Charvak Muni. He was considered a sage, but what did he say? He said nonsense. Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow you may die. Beg, borrow, or steal, get ghee, because then you'll enjoy, because tomorrow you may die. He was a hedonist sage. And there's others that say other things and other things and other things. So it's a means that some people turn to for knowing things. A sage said it. Arsha. It's a kind of shabda, but it's not a Purusheya shabda. Then the next one is upamana. Upamana means analogy or making a comparison. The nyaya comparison is somebody from the city is making a visit to the country, and that somebody in the country tells them about an animal called a gavaya that resembles a cow. But a person in the city has never seen a gavaya. But they heard somebody from the country say, there's gavayas, they look like cows, they resemble a cow. So he goes to the country and he sees this animal that looks like a cow, but it's not exactly a cow. So he reasons, oh, that must be a gavaya. It's a kind of knowledge. And we all have experience like that. When you're told how to, so many things. Go buy a mridanga when you may not know what a mridanga is. Now we all know what mridangas are, but something that you don't know what it is. Buy a lota. I won't explain the source of this, but one devotee was saying they asked one of the Prabhus to go get a lota, and he brought back a flower vase. was a college student in India, by the way. They know how to get A's in exams, but don't know how to tie their shoelaces or anything practical. Anyway, Hare Krishna. So, Arthapati is conjecture. It's negative logic, negative reasoning. The negative reasoning classic from Nyaya is Devadatta is chubby, but he never eats during the day. So the negative inference is he must eat at night. You haven't seen him eat at night, but you see that he's chubby, and he says he doesn't eat during the day. So by negative inference, we can deduce. Then the next one is abhava. Abhava means non-existence. You know, here's an example. When I got back to where I'm staying at Premarnava's house, I was looking for my USB sticks so I could, get ready to make the presentation and fix the thing because I wanted to add some things. But they weren't in my jacket pocket, and they weren't in my kurta pocket. They were absent. So I deduced I must have left them in the place over here where they have projection. I didn't know for sure, but very likely, and sure enough, that's where they were, fortunately. So you leave a glass of water, and the glass of water is gone. You leave your cell phone is gone. Somebody took the cell phone, or something like that. So by negative inference, okay? The non-existence of something, rather. So, again, these are in detail, examples are given, and so forth and so on in the handout. Sambhava is inclusion. Really simple. If you have $1 million, it's understood you also have $100 and $10 by the logic of inclusion. That's what sambhava is. Atithya is tradition. The right word? Aitya, tradition. When Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj gave his course on Tattva-Sandarbha, he used the following example. It's a very good example. When you're in Vrindavan, and you go, the little parikrama path around the Vrindavan town, there's a place just before the Prabhupada's, for the Krishna Balaram temple that goes right by there. There's a well. And the local people will tell you, you can't just go on the street past the well. You have to go around the well. And then when you go around the well, you have to call down in the well, Radhe, Radhe, very enthusiastically. And if you don't do that, then your parikrama is incomplete. Now, it's a nice thing to walk around the well and say, Radhe, Radhe. But it's not, it's folk stories. And it's not that those are zero. There's some reason why they're there, and they have some value. Like Krishna says, another example is when Krishna sees this big yajna being arranged by his father, Krishna asks him, is this a family tradition or is this enjoined in the Vedas? Right? So that's a kind of, because it's a family tradition doesn't mean you don't do it. But if it's enjoined in the Vedas, you must do it. And then you must know the reason behind it to get the benefit. So it's another means of knowing something is through tradition. And that's almost 10. That's number 9. Then comes number 10. And number 10 is cheshta. which means gesture. Like those of you that have been trained a little bit more details in deity worship, there are procedures of mudras. When you approach an article for worship, you show different hand figures, or people that learn traditional dance, their mudras or gestures with the hand, or the position of Radharani. Some mudras are giving benediction or different things, right? So that's a means of knowing something. Cheshta, gestures. You may say, where's you're looking for something? Oh, it's over there on the table. So it's a means of knowing something. So each one of those 7 are subsets of the 3. The 3 are direct sense perception, logic or logical inference, and shabda. And we're almost done. So now, shabda, pramana, literally means sound. Shabda means sound. And it can also be written, sound that's written by a trustworthy person, apta purusha. Just say, for example, you have an airline booking for the day, and you want to know if the flight is going to be on time. So there's an apta purusha person. You call the airlines. You could ask the guy on the corner, or you stop for gas and ask the gas station guy, is the plane going to be on time? But he's not the person that has that valid knowledge about, is the plane going to be on time? But there's somebody that does. It's their job. And they can only tell you what's in the computer. But, if it's a good company, anyway, you get the idea. So there's worldly knowledge and worldly trustworthy persons. But those worldly trustworthy persons can't answer questions about transcendence. And Jiva Goswami wants to know about Krishna, who's in the realm of transcendence. So there's 2 different kinds. There's apaurushaya and paurushaya. Paurushaya is somebody that knows something about a worldly subject. I have a computer problem. I go to somebody who knows how to fix computer problems. But it's not that I would take my computer to Prabhupada and expect him to fix my computer because he's the knower of all things, because he knows the Vedas. You get the idea. So that's the end of this little section. Text number 9 is Jiva Goswami is saying this apaurushaya is therefore the perfect pramana. Why? Because it's free from the 4 defects of the conditioned soul. For Jiva Goswami, what happened? It's got a different screen than I have. Oh, I'm already on text 10. That's what happened. There we go. There's the last. For Jiva Goswami, Shabda Pramana is restricted to knowledge of the Vedas because it's apaurushaya Shabda. What are these 2 terms? Paurushaya means a human being. Apaurushaya means not a human being, like Krishna or Narayan, or a pure devotee who is connected with Krishna. That's apaurushaya Shabda. We can trust that for valid knowledge. We're done. And then tomorrow morning, verses 10 and 11 expand on this, but it's essentially the same conclusion. The Vedas are the best means of knowing things. So let's just reconstruct it really quickly. And we wish to know these 4 things. I, the author, Jiva Goswami, wish to establish these four things. I said I would do it, now I'm going to do it. Before I speak about the subject, Krishna, what's the best means of knowing Krishna? That's the question that's posed. So we're on the hunt or the search for valid means of knowing Krishna. Now then there's the four defects of the conditioned soul. So because of those four defects, even material things can't be known correctly, what to speak of transcendental things. So then we go into this other field of how you might try to know something, and through direct sense perception and through reason and logic, they're fallible. So that leaves me with one, and that's Shabda. And those other seven are subsets of those seven, the three. So it's those three. Direct sense perception, reason and logic, and Shabda, or sound vibration. And we want transcendental sound vibration from a perfect source. You'll put it very simply, Prabhupada said, if you want perfect knowledge, find a perfect person. That's Krishna. Ask Krishna, he'll give you perfect knowledge. Does somebody know where this little boy's mother or father is? Oh, right there. Okay. So that's a little summary. Krishna Priya, you got your hand up. You have questions? Okay. Do we have a microphone? Yes, here it comes. In the back. Raise your hand. Yeah, good.
So Guru Maharaj, I'm a little confused about Pratyaksha.
You're confused about what?
Pratyaksha. So if I...
Pratyaksha.
Yeah. So if I heard you right, you said that the only exception to Pratyaksha is the sense perception of pure devotees who have transcended the four defects.
Because their senses are purified and they're directly perceiving Krishna because of
yes. But so far I had the understanding that as long as your sense perception and logic and inference is supported by Shabda Praman, it is okay because...
Yeah, we operate all the time. We have to live, we have to function. So we use our sense perception. I mean, to get from Boston to New Jersey, you used your sense perception and your logic and your GPS. And you got here. You didn't just look it up in the Bhagavad Gita. But you subordinated your power of sense perception and logic and reason to the purpose of Bhagavad Gita, hearing about Krishna. And otherwise, you didn't, or you wouldn't.
But specifically, I was wondering, I had this understanding that, even trying to understand the spiritual subject matters, it is okay to use our
We must.
inference.
Prabhupada would say, try to understand. We're using our faculties of reason to understand. Now, if we don't understand, we should understand it's our faulty use of our power of reason, not there's something wrong with the Shabda. That was Sri Radhika's question about, being independently thoughtful while at the same time faithful. Does that take care of it, or still something rumbling around over there?
So it's because if I heard you, you said the only exception is with the pure devotees. So for
Well, we're not pure devotees, but we can still subordinate our power of reason and logic, even in terms of understanding the scripture. It purifies. And another scriptural reference, Krishna says, one who studies this sacred conversation is worshiping me with their intelligence. Now, our intelligence doesn't get it, but we're still worshiping Krishna by our intelligence. Our intelligence becomes purified by applying that faculty of intellect to the subject matter. We're not speculating about it, we're trying to understand it. We're using our power of discernment and logic and reason. It's not conclusive, but we use it. We're told to use it. We're also told don't speculate, but we're told to use those faculties.
Thank you.
Not just, in other words, it's like one way to take a bath is you just stand there and the water pours over you. Then another is you engage with the water, etc. So we do that. We engage with the subject matter of Shabda, trying to understand it, not just blindly accepting it. That's not the way to understand it. What do you think? Is that okay? All right. Yes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow, it's after 9 o'clock. Go ahead.
So the progression of Jiva Goswami's conclusion to where he finally concluded makes sense. I could see, and I have experienced, where a person would say, so then how do you establish the superhuman portion? How do you know that?
We'll get there. It's
Okay,
coming
so
up.
he does address
Just now
it.
coming.
Okay.
Coming attractions.
Hare Krishna.
Now, let me add to Krishna Priya's question. He's using reason and logic to say that reason and logic is insufficient. That's the next one. Number 10 says, he recognizes that. He points it out and says, now here's the Shabda that establishes and supports what reason and logic has concluded. Cool, huh? Yes.
Guru Maharaj, my question is, objectively there may be real knowledge available, but the accessing of the knowledge is what we are interested in.
Hmm?
There may be scriptures and there may be pure devotees who carry that. I don't think Jiva Goswami is addressing the real issue is how does one access that knowledge? Because those who have it, they already have it.
Well, first we have to know what it is. And then how you engage with it is it's part of the coming attractions.
The reason I'm asking this is, these persons who give the 6 darshans, they're all Vyasadev's disciples.
They've got really good logic. And then someone else that overrules that logic and so forth and so on. And they have their followers that say, wow, that's good logic. And it's not just those 6, it's, the world is filled with people that have convictions in something. And Krishna, says in Bhagavad Gita, he makes their convictions strong from within their heart. So I understand what your question is, and I just have to say, initially, the effort so far, we just got started, please, is what is the valid evidence or valid knowledge? That's what prama and pramana is the means of acquiring that, prama. So he's saying it's shabda. So let's then how do you apply shabda? Your question is how do you apply shabda correctly so that you actually can receive it? Not it's out there, but you can receive it. It's coming up. Good question. Hang on. Let's see if we get there. Yes.
Maharaj, I'm wondering whether I can ask Krishna Priya Mataji's question in a little different way. I somewhat was having a similar kind of question. When you showed that slide on exception to the pratyaksha, it seemed to indicate as if that someone can claim to be self-realized without actually contacting the disciplic succession.
Yeah, there's cheaters. There can be somebody within disciplic succession that isn't Vaidusha Pratyaksha and claim to be Vaidusha Pratyaksha. There's some people like that too. I can name some names.
So my question is that does that exception...
And that leads into his question too. Where's the realization of the real thing? Go ahead.
So I was wondering whether someone can take advantage of that exception that is
Sure, they
presented
can cheat.
and actually
Sure. Sure. It's the
present-
world of the cheaters and the cheated. It goes on. Yes, people can cheat.
But could there be bona fide cases where they don't need to actually go through the disciplic succession, because Jiva Goswami seemed to indicate that you can be...
No. That person who's the Vaidusha Pratyaksha person, a subset of their eligibility is they're in disciplic succession.
Okay.
And one who says, no, I don't need it, that's an unqualified person, a fundamentally unqualified person.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Just pass the microphone around.
Guru Maharaj, so the addition to that question is...
Look what you started, Krishna Priya.
So,
ahead.
how do we take Prahlad Maharaj? Because he got it directly from Narad Muni.
Who did?
Prahlad Maharaj.
Prahlad Maharaj.
He got the transcendental knowledge from Narad Muni.
Okay.
So, it is not like it is part of the disciplic succession, but not in the terms of progression from one guru to the other guru. So,
Why do you say that? What is it that you're saying? He received from Narada Muni, that's disciplic succession. He's in disciplic succession from Narada Muni.
Okay.
What's the problem? Maybe you think through your question a little bit more, and
Yeah.
you can ask the question when you've thought it through some more. Pass the microphone back.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. So even Sabda Praman, it goes through our mind, and
That's a filter.
That's a filter, and I get Shastra, but I probably understand it the way I want to understand it. How do we resolve this? Especially, there's also the Divya Gyan Trutya Prakasito. How do you deal with? Sometimes you feel something, but you don't know whether it is Krishna guiding you or whether it's your mind which is diverting you. How do we understand these two things?
You seek confirmation, Guru Sadhu Shastra. You can also see the degree of steadiness in the mood of humble service in devotion. That can give some indication of, is it the mind or is it Krishna? Right? Because if signals from Krishna or indications from Krishna directly come to one who is pure in devotion, not so much one who is mixed in devotion. Anyway, you can, to keep it really short, you can assume largely it's the mind, or mind filtering some light. So rather than the moment of some inspiration, such and such, we turn instead primarily to Guru Sadhu Shastra, rather than be guided by the mind saying such and such temporarily. You follow the distinction I'm making? Trust in that which is very, very clearly transparent, and be a little more cautious about trusting that which is not so very, very clearly transparent. You have to live with, the thoughts in your mind and the inspirations that you're carrying. Give them less weight than the higher one. And then you seek, guidance and good association from those not living your autobiography, and ask for some feedback and verification. Okay?
How do you deal with the mind filter?
You tolerate it. Honest. That's what Bhaktisiddhanta said. Go ahead. That was it? Okay. Over in the corner? Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, my question is also related to Vidyusha Pratyaksha. And if I got it right, the meaning was belonging to the learned or the wise. And I am thinking if this is kind of, what I'm trying to say is, if a learned man, a kind of a revelation in his heart, that will be, for us it will be like a shabda, but for them that can be a pratyaksha praman.
Are you asking, is that a correct understanding?
In a way, yes. And
Well,
I'm having
I
a
hope
hard...
you are, because it's not correct.
Because I'm having a hard time taking that as an exception.
Well, the exception is truly an exception. It's not just somebody with a swagger that goes around saying, I'm deeply learned and I've got this realization, so look out, here I come. It means persons like Rupa Goswami. That's what he means.
I am thinking on that line only. I'm
Okay,
not
but
thinking outside.
so and so Prabhu over there in some such and such place, who's has very learned. It's not so. He's speaking of the Goswamis. That's what he's speaking of. Such persons.
But whatever revelations they have, that becomes a Shabda Praman for us.
Yes, yes. It's like Prabhupada saying the writings of Narottam Das Thakur. That's scripture.
Right, and it's a category of a pratyaksha and being an exception.
Yeah. So now you're making the statement that, if I've understood correctly, for us it's shabda. For them it's pratyaksha. They're perceiving something. Yeah. And then they say it, then it becomes sound. Or they write it and it becomes sound. It's like, here's an example. Srila Prabhupada would sit sometimes and just have disciples read. And he would sit for a long time, hours, and just hear the Bhaktivedanta purports and relish them. And say, this is written by Krishna. So for him, then that was also became Shabda as well as Pratyaksha Praman.
Right, but then it should not be an exception.
Well, Prabhupada is an exception. I'm sorry.
No, I'm not
if
talking
you write
about
something and say, "Oh, Krishna must have written it," it's not the same.
No. What I meant is Vidyusha Pratyaksha should not be an exception then. I got the Prabhupada's example. This should not be placed in the category of an exception. It should be a Shabda Pramana, and from them it is a Pratyaksh. So there is no category of an exception.
I don't want to argue with you. You win.
I'm sorry, Maharaj, I'm sorry.
Behind you, she wants the microphone.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I was actually wondering in the last slide, you made a distinction between Shabda Praman into Parasha Shabda and Aparasha Shabda. One of them being that there's the superhuman and the other one not being the superhuman. It's just one subject matter expertise. So are we not concerned with the one subject matter expertise because it seems like only the superhuman...
I got about 10%. Do it again slower.
Oh, sorry.
Slower, please.
Yes, Maharaj.
She works in Wall Street.
In the last slide, there was a distinction in Shabda.
The last slide, there was an issue about Shabda.
It was a distinction between Shabda Praman into Parasha Shabda and Aparasha Shabda.
Okay, Parusha and Aparusha. It's right there.
Right there. Oh. So my question was just, are we not concerned with Parasha Shabda since it's...
Are we not concerned with Parusha Shabda?
Right, are we not concerned with it?
We're concerned with it. If you want to catch the bus, you have to know what time it's coming.
Right,
We're concerned with it. We use it. We use it all the time. You have a problem with the computer, you go to a Parusha Shabda guy that says, "Can you fix my computer?" We use it all the time. We're concerned with it insofar as it has relation to service to Krishna.
Right.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, Maharaj.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Jivana Jivan's last question. You have the honor of the last question.
Flipping subjects here, Maharaj, a little
Hey, all right.
The cheating propensity. I really appreciated the definition. When we fail to attain material happiness to our full satisfaction, we take to cheating to improve our chances. So I was wondering if you could
elaborate on improving our chances.
No.
Can you give us some tips on how to? No, that's not what I meant, Maharaj. What is it you meant? How is it that how do we fall prey to the cheating propensity in that way? Is that what you want to know?
I think I understand it, but I'd like to hear more about this because it explains a lot within me.
It's like self-deception. There's deceiving others, that's one kind of cheating propensity. And there's deceiving ourselves, that's another cheating propensity. And, we wish to be happy through fruitive activities. And it's not happening, and it's not happening. And the cheating propensity is self-delusion. We just keep trying it a different way and, improving our chances for happiness through fruitive activities when we really know it's not going to happen. We just keep, we're cheating ourselves. And cheating our loved ones, those around us. Well, we want companionship while we go down the path of cheating ourselves. And we want them to pat us on the head or pat us on the back and hold our hand and make us feel good about cheating ourselves. Collective delusion. Normally, the cheating propensity is we see, but we report differently. Like false testimony. Your Honor, I didn't do it, and all the evidence points to he did it. Or something like that. Or, and more innocently, ask your son or sons, ask them something. Did you just pull your brother's ear? No, I didn't pull my brother's ear. I would never think of it. That's one kind of cheating propensity. But then there's the self-cheating propensity. That's what that's speaking about. Self-delusion. We do have one more question. The last of the one more questions.
Yeah, the topic here is how to approach the knowledge, not really where the knowledge exists.
No, it's where the knowledge exists. How to approach the knowledge that was Krishna Smarna's question.
Yeah, but I'm having doubt on that answer. All we are talking about is how can we approach? We can approach through senses, we can approach through Anuman, we can approach through Shabda. How do we approach? That's the topic.
Well, it's more than that, though, because in one sense, yes, somewhere out there is real knowledge. Now, how do I get it? And I can try to get it this way, that way, the other way.
Yeah.
Which is what you're saying.
Yeah. And my problem is that there is no conclusive answer to this.
There's no what?
I am not getting a conclusive answer of how to approach knowledge because the Shabda is tainted with imperfect senses. Even if I approach Shabda, I'm coming through my senses.
Okay,
so
that was his question about the filter of the mind.
Right. So
and then there's the senses, which is the mind is the sense number 6. So you're correct to say even there's Shabda, I'm going to be using my senses to try to acquire it or gather it or receive it. So it's correct, it's true. The good news is the senses become purified by contacting that Shabda. the senses will not become purified by contacting the other kind. The sense and the sense object, period. Pratyaksha, that's minus shabda. In our case, when we have shabda, we can direct our senses, even there they're blunt, and they, at this stage, can only perceive material things, but we can, it's similar to the very first question, actually, that I can only perceive, it's just like, seeing the deity, or the holy name, or the scripture, or anything that's spiritual. In the clearing stage, we're seeing or interacting with that which is exactly as you're saying, that which is fully spiritual, with blunt instruments that can only perceive material and only think of those things as material. Each one of the 10 is something that's spiritual. We're seeing it as material. The Vaishnava, the holy name, the spiritual master, the scriptures, the power of the holy name, the glories of the holy name, etc., etc. The purpose of the holy name. We're seeing it in a material way. What you're saying is correct. So the activity itself helps to cleanse, and having the right intention when doing those activities. The intention of purification, ultimately, the intention of being situated in my relationship with Krishna. When intention is focused, then attention goes to the right place. And then the mind and the senses can become purified, and then one can receive without the filters or the imperfect senses. That's the practice stage, that's the sadhana stage. And then the ecstasy stage, and then the love of God stage, when then one can directly perceive. So we need purification to get there. And the means of purification is through Shabda. Go ahead.
And this knowledge is also Shabda.
Say it again. Knowledge is?
So, this is how it went. I said, how can I approach Shabda because I have imperfect senses? Your answer was, well, the senses would get purified. And my counter to that is, this answer is also Shabda. What you are saying.
That's correct.
Right?
That's
so
right.
it boils down to this, and let me know if I'm right or not. Boils down to this, that I have to put in faith. You cannot prove objectively, logically that you're Krishna consciousness.
That's correct.
I have to try something in my life. Let me try Krishna consciousness.
Yes, there's the element of faith, regardless of whoever you are, whatever stage you're in. The atheist has faith. The theist has faith. The practitioner of sadhana has faith. Otherwise, they wouldn't practice. And anything that we do, go from where we are right now to wherever we're going to go after this. There's faith, and there's something in that that's beneficial for me, and so I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it this way. So now, the life of devotion is through association of devotees of Krishna, those that are carrying bhakti. My bhakti quantum has increased. Faith has been nourished and nurtured. And therefore, I'm with my intention determines where my attention goes, and I practice. And because of that, I'm becoming purified. Supposing someone doesn't have that intention. They're just passing by and they hear a kirtan or something like that. Their devotion has begun. It's like little, but it's begun. And then it can be increased through association, just like we're doing this weekend. So the activity alone is insufficient to get the full realization, is my response to your question. intention has to be active, directed towards Krishna. It's one of the 24 elements is chaita, or contaminated consciousness. Our contaminated consciousness needs to be directed. Now, part of what we're doing, like Sri Radhika's question, like what's the objective here? To nourish the faith, so when we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, we'll hear it with greater attentiveness, because we know what it is. It's a means of giving Krishna, disclosing Krishna to us. Here I am. Krishna disclosing himself through that sound vibration. Now, as you indicated, back to the initial question, I'm not there. But Krishna's there because our attention is elsewhere. That's this defect of the conditioned soul, pramada. Our attention is elsewhere because our intention is not. So, by association and through sound vibration, that intention becomes more focused, or our attention becomes more focused, so we get more of the full benefit that's possible for us, and eventually the full thing, which is this Vaidusha Pratyaksha. When the pure devotee sees the deity, they see Krishna. When the pure devotee chants the holy name, they see Krishna. When a pure devotee hears the message of Srimad Bhagavatam, they see Krishna. And we don't. We're practicing with faith. I think we have to end. I see the lights are going out. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
I got the passport application.
You had it earlier today and I was running around.
No, I did have it, but I didn't bring it.
You didn't chase that.
This is your new prescription card.